Welcome to Lavender You, a community for LGBTQ plus women and femmes, where we talk about all things queer media and representation. I'm Jamie Margolin. Today on the pod, we have a guest that my baby gay self from 4 years ago would be freaking out over, Zolita. Zolita is a lesbian pop artist who is one of the first queer singers I ever listened to and became a fan of. I've been listening to Zolita since 2016, and her music and iconic music videos were my lifeline when I was in the closet, and I was very mesmerized by them and the storylines and the filmmaking and the music, and it was just so refreshing to see a girl like me making music when, you know, a lot of queer music didn't exist back then, even though it wasn't that long ago. Zolita, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to finally meet you.
Yeah.
After chatting online for so long and seeing all the incredible work you're doing. So thank you for having me.
Am I in your Loveline? Am I just another night to you?
The song you are currently listening to, that is the theme song and official song of the Lavender You podcast, is Loveline, which is a song by Zolita. So Zolita, tell us, is there anything about Loveline that you want to share?
Yeah, well, I'm very honored that Loveline is the theme song for this podcast. And Loveline is off of my new album, Evil Angel. And it is a song about a classic queer crush. The phase of having a crush where you're like romanticizing everything about that person. And I think that we all do that. So yeah, that's what Loveline is about.
Yeah.
And a lot of astrology in there too, which is very which I think is very queer as well.
Yes, astrology gays are a thing. I don't know much about it, but I would like to know more, and I respect it. Maybe you and I should chat astrology sometime, because I would like
we
to
absolutely
learn.
should.
Yes.
I love it.
Print the knowledge upon me.
Amazing.
So for our listeners who don't know who you are, can you tell people a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and the creation of the name and persona of Zolita, since I know that's not like your birth name, but that's the stage presence that you've created. Definitely.
I feel like I like to say that I make music so I can make the music videos, because I love music videos so much as a medium. So I grew up playing music on the side and playing bluegrass, actually.
Oh.
And then I went to film school, NYU, where you are right now.
Yay.
And and I always thought that film was more the route that I was going to go, because I love visuals, I love photography. And then when I got to film school, I realized that music videos were the medium that I really loved, because they didn't have to necessarily be linear, they didn't necessarily have to be narrative, and I could play so much with other things, other like forms of art that I love. Like fashion and makeup and dance and activism. So yeah, realized I love music videos, but there wasn't necessarily anybody that I wanted to make videos for. And I was writing music on the side kind of for fun. And I thought to myself, well, why don't I just do both? And yeah, the Virgo Taurus in me, very controlling. So I loved the idea of doing all of it all at once. So yeah, and while I was at NYU, I started making music videos for class projects, and the first one was Explosion.
Explosion is like your most viral music video. For those of you who don't know, Explosion is a great gay song that Zolita made, and it's very stunning. It has very haunting, almost biblical imagery. It's so incredible that like the first thing you made for like a school project ended up blowing up. So like, was it after Explosion blew up that you like, I don't know, like, how did you create the persona of Zolita, and like, are you and Zolita one and the same? Are Zoe and Zolita the same person? Or are they kind of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or some sort of split thing? And how did that evolve?
So Zolita is definitely an alter ego, I would say, but is kind of like a facet of myself, and has become almost this outlet to explore parts of myself that I feel like I maybe wouldn't have allowed Zoe to. And kind of also became a way for me to become more comfortable in my sexuality and confident and like proud of my sexuality. Definitely inspired by, other pop icons like Lady Gaga and Madonna and pop singers that are so shameless in expressing their sexuality, and I think I saw them and saw that as a way to also kind of do the same, and becoming more confident and okay with who I was. So, and it's funny because my music is so dark and my visuals are so dark, and my friends always say, they're like, it's the funniest thing about you because you're like the sunniest, happiest, like person, and as Zoe, but Zolita is so much darker. So I think that, yeah, it's a nice way for me to explore that side of myself because it's in there. We all have our light and our dark.
So Zoe's the light and Zolita's the more dark.
Yes,
witchy,
absolutely.
Ominous kind of force.
Yeah.
I love it. How would you describe your music and music style and like music videos to someone who has never heard of you or seen any of your stuff?
Ooh, so the music, I would call it witch pop, like dark witch pop. There's definitely, a lot of bops, but also a lot of dark, sad vibes as well. And very gay. Almost every song I feel like is pretty queer. And the music videos, I would say, also have a lot of like cult imagery, religious imagery, and are definitely avant-garde and always have, or I'm always trying to say something with them or push the boundary in some way, with what's okay on YouTube. So yeah.
I saw one of your TikToks. You were just like, I make music videos and as an excuse to kiss pretty girls. I mean,
yeah.
Most of your music videos consist of you kissing pretty girls. Yeah. Is this intentional? Is this?
I'm shooting what I would like to see, so it is pretty intentional. But also, yeah. So I think someone had commented that they were like, I think Zolita just makes music videos as an excuse to kiss pretty girls and throw some magic in there and then call it a day. And I thought that was so funny. And I was like, I'm going to own that and be like, yeah, that's exactly why I'm doing this. But my next challenge for myself, I was like, okay, the next video, like, no beds. I can't have a bed in the next video. Because I feel like every single video, there's a bed in it. There's always true. So that's going to be my challenge.
That's true. Okay, your challenge. I love that. That's a very, very interesting challenge.
Yes.
So you were the femme lesbian representation that helped me come to terms with who I was as a very feminine lesbian, because I don't know, I grew up with stereotypes that lesbians had to be a certain way, and only, as I got more and more, my eyes opened more and more to the LGBT community, and I learned more and more being a part of that community. I realized that like queer people can look all certain different ways, and all ways of presenting is perfectly beautiful and valid. Your music and that representation really helped me. So what made you become an artist who like makes music for queer girls, and what's it like to be the representation of that kind of lesbian?
First of all, thank you so much. That touches my heart, seriously. And I'm so happy to be talking to you. I think it was when I put out Explosion, and didn't really expect anything I put it online, didn't expect it to do anything. And then when it started to go viral, just seeing people in the comments kind of bond over this shared experience of being in love with your best friend. I mean, I didn't realize that was such a universal queer experience at that point, because had only been out maybe for a year. And just seeing that it was healing for so many people to kind of hear this experience reflected back to them that they also were having, really, that was my aha moment, and made me realize that that's what I wanted to do moving forward with my music and with any kind of art that I make. I definitely realized that was like my mission, was representing people that are not as represented. And I mean, growing up, I feel like you've said this too before, you want to make with the show that you're making, right? You want to you want to make the show that you didn't have growing up. And I think that's the case with so many queer artists, is like, who grew up with not very much representation. Now, the world is a little bit different and things are so much more accepted. And also people have more access, and it's just easier to create things without like a middleman. So yeah.
No, yeah, and I also wanted to ask you, like, I think I saw you posting some things about this. Is like you're a very like feminine, like girly kind of person, and how did just like the way I struggled with that, did that make you confused about if you were ever queer or not, or have you ever had the classic "you're too pretty to be gay" or like "what, you don't look gay, how is that possible, what a waste," like those kinds of comments?
Yeah.
Like, what's it been like coming to terms with that, and then also like how people interact with you being a lesbian who people would think of as like traditionally femininely pretty?
Definitely. I think that for sure was a big reason why it took me so long to realize that I was queer. It wasn't until I think like junior year of high school when I saw Glee and saw Santana and Brittany and saw that two feminine women could be in a relationship, that it wasn't until then that I realized that that's what I wanted. Because before that, I feel like the only person that I really knew of in the mainstream media was Ellen, and I knew I didn't like women who looked like her or wasn't attracted to them, and I didn't look like that, and I presented very feminine, so I didn't think that there was a chance I could be gay. And I think in my mind I was like, oh, maybe later on I'll be more interested in men, but right now I'm just focused on my photography and like taking pictures of girls.
Oh, yep.
Yeah,
The whole "I'm not gay, I'm just studious," that was
Yes.
me. I'm just not into that. I'm just so focused on my schooling. I'm not like you other people focused on your boyfriends.
Yeah,
Turns out I was just gay.
Yep. Like, I don't have time for crushes, okay? I don't have time to go on dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure took longer than I'm sure it's, than it is for kids growing up now with TikTok and with just so many different varieties of representation. But and then now in my life, I feel like I'm not really questioned within the queer community. Sometimes you feel like if you're super femme, you feel doubted.
Yeah.
But now I feel like definitely more accepted and not as questioned as I used to be.
Right. So when I was a closeted baby gay, the thing about your music videos that really touched me with Holy, with Explosion, is how like majestic and like almost not Disney like, but like if Disney was dark. And I remember one of your music videos where I think it was Come Home With Me, where you each image was like recreating famous lesbian art, and so it gives it this like timeless feel of like your music videos are watching something that could be in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, or something that could just be in a museum, something that beautiful like a sculpture. And we don't really think about queer art like that typically. I don't really see a lot of something that is so majestic and dark and magical and like ethereal. You also had like a lyric video with like old lesbian pulp fiction, like what is it with the religious nostalgia, Greek imagery, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I love the idea of revisiting kind of art that queer people have been historically excluded from or not been represented in, and then reimagining that, and reimagining how I think it could have been if it had been done. And particularly for the Come Home With Me video, the 3 paintings that we recreated in that video either were done by men or were like anonymous, so it might have been a woman who wasn't allowed to say that she had painted it.
Right.
And so I loved the idea also of taking these sapphic paintings that were through the male gaze and then reimagining them through the gaze of someone who's actually a lesbian. So
yeah, it means a lot to see us kind of in something that could be timeless, I guess. And what you call your music witchy pop, and I think that's a perfect description of it. What made you choose to go the theme of like dark, witchy, kind of not spooky, but I guess witchy is the right term kind of music? And why did you choose that like magic, cultish, witchy kind of theme for your music and music videos?
Yeah, I think I've always been attracted to darker sounds, But I kind of arrived when I was going through my religious Taurus kind of phase, because I'm super drawn to spirituality. And so I definitely went through a period where I was like, okay, I went to like a Catholic mass, and I went to a Christian teen group, and I went to a Shabbat dinner, and I like tried everything. And then I found Wicca several years ago. It was like maybe like 5 years ago, found Wicca, and I loved the idea that in Wicca the power is in you, and it's like you're combining your power with nature's power to reach divine power. And yeah, so I started practicing magic several years ago, and that naturally started bleeding into kind of my lyrics and into the sounds that I was using. I feel like just like being queer kind of naturally bleeds into my music because that's my day-to-day life. Because magic has become also part of my day-to-day, it started to really show up in my art as well. So yeah, and also I think that, you know, magic and Wicca has been, because it's like a fringe religion or fringe spirituality, it's always been attractive to queer people. And there's, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's because we're often excluded and shamed in like mainstream religion, that creating something or reclaiming old practices, I mean, it has its own meaning, and I see a lot of like witchcraft imagery and a lot of that in like queer TikTok and stuff, because I feel like it's a way for people to find something bigger than themselves, but also like not in the form of a system like the Catholic Archdiocese that like discriminates against LGBT people. You know, I'm interested when you say practicing magic. Like, what do you mean by practicing magic? I feel like people often they think of like casting spells over a cauldron, or like bippity boppity boo with like a magic wand. Like what is the magic that you practice, and what is that like, and how did you become someone who practices magic, and what kind of magic?
Well, I do have a cauldron and I do have a magic wand, so there is a little bit of that, but it's not as what's the word, fairy tale-esque like that all the time. But I mostly practice along with the full moon and the new moon, so I'll do spells that kind of line up with that, and yeah, and I do a lot of candle magic. I think in the beginning when I first started practicing magic, I loved it so much because it was so dramatic, like all of the things, and like you're putting yourself in the zone. And now I feel like I don't know, it's definitely much more about intention, rather than all of the materials. So yeah.
What are these spells that you're casting? Like, what is this? Is it like wishing for prosperity or hexing someone, or what is it?
So never hexing somebody. I've never done a black magic spell before. But
you have a song called Black Magic.
I do.
You've never done black magic?
I know, I'm not like practicing what I'm preaching, but yeah, that was when I wrote that song. That was a moment of like I almost cast a black magic spell because I was really upset at somebody, but I didn't do it. Instead, I wrote a song, which I think's better. But they say that if you cast a black magic spell, basically, you know, wishing something bad on somebody, it's going to come back to you threefold. So I don't do that. But yeah, it's mostly like prosperity or healing, you know, getting over heartbreak, all kinds of things with my family, things with, you know, blessing a home, just kind of whenever I need any, you know, something in my life, I generally turn to that.
That's really nice to have something like that. Speaking of heartbreak, your new album Evil Angel is about heartbreak that you recently experienced. I've read about. What was it like turning pain and heartbreak and betrayal into music, and what was the inspiration behind your newest musical project Evil Angel and the videos off of that album?
I definitely am so extremely grateful that I have music and art, to have been able to process that last experience. I say this all the time, like, oh my God, what do people do who go through these intense betrayals or breakups who don't have art to process through it and make like something tangible out of all of that pain? Because that was definitely the only thing that got me through all of that betrayal and heartbreak, was having an outlet to be able to express everything that I was feeling and process through it. And then also the idea of like making something then that you can show to the world and that other people can, you know, find themselves in and relate to. And, you know, it's healing for other people as well. And in that way, it heals me all over again. So
because it makes something productive out of pain. I think for a lot of people it's hard. I mean, I'm not a believer that like things happen for a reason. I think the universe, just bad things happen and different people deal with it different ways. I'm not a believer in purpose, but in purpose of bad things, but I think that people often try to make purpose out of the bad things in a way to like justify it in my head. Like, if I'm gonna go through all of that pain, then it better be because I made something great. And I feel like that's a lot of heartbreak albums. The album cover of Evil Angel is you like holding a girl in white, kind of like, what is that, like Mary holding Jesus, or what was the album art for Evil Angel? So
it was a reference. La Pieta was the reference, Mary holding Jesus, and I'm holding myself. Actually, it's a body double, but we like we shot it twice basically. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of different ways that it could be interpreted. One of the ways is, you know, I'm holding that past self who was in the relationship and that dark side of myself, and that, you know, the death of that chapter could also be me holding the death of that person in my eyes and who they were. Yeah, I love the idea of, you know, people being able to interpret it in different ways that they want to.
I'm always excited for your new content because it's so artistic and beautiful, and it's just amazing, and it's so gay unapologetically. I'm just like, you feed the gays. So is there anything else that the gays can expect to be fed with?
Oh, yes. So my short film, Evil Angel, is going to come out in March, and basically it incorporates little bits of the entire album in a way that's diegetic. So it's kind of worked in within the film and its narrative. So very, very stoked for that. And what else? I'm doing a deluxe version of the album, and there's going to be some really, really exciting collaborations with other queer artists that are reworking some of the songs. So I'm very excited for that. And I think
that's what I was gonna ask. So there was like a conglomerate of my gay friends in my headphones, the queer girls that I would listen to, and it was you and Haley Kiyoko were like the ones. Like I'm just thinking, like, when is the Zolita Haley Kiyoko collab? When is the Zolita King Princess, Girl in Red, Kaylani, like all of these queer artists? I feel like there's not enough collaboration. I'm like, have you been in conversation with any of these artists?
I'm open, you know, we will see, but I feel like sometimes there's a weird like competitive thing with queer female artists, which is so, you know, it shouldn't be like that. But I feel like a lot of the times queer artists like are because they're like pitted, you know, up against each other. They tend to like stray from collaborating with other queer female artists, which I feel like is so wrong because there's room for everybody. But I'm so down to collab with any of those artists that you named. I admire all of them. So
yeah, and I think I think she identifies as a lesbian, like artist who kind of has not similar aesthetics to you, but like does the same kind of witchy, kind of like dark gay pop as like Gia Woods. I would love to do you guys talk? Like, I would love to see a Zolita Gia Woods collab. Yes.
We run into each other all the time in LA, and we've hung out a few times, and she's fantastic. And so that seems like something that could happen for sure in the future, because she's I would call her a friend. She's really awesome. So yeah,
that's amazing. Something else that is unique about you and your music and videos is that I think you talk a lot about being an independent artist, and while you do have a very niche cult following, you know, you're not on the charts or like a typical, like what people would describe as like a pop star, very niche queer following, and also this might have changed, but do you not have like a record label or anything like that? Like what is your opinion about, you know, being someone who's like a niche artist and like an independent? Like, is there a reason for that? Would you like to do more mainstream, like break out into the mainstream or eventually get signed, or do you prefer the freedom of staying relatively like independent and with your own niche following.
Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about the music industry right now is that I am able to do this, and like, just that we were talking about earlier, the middleman is gone, and I can film a music video, and I can record an album, and I can directly upload it to YouTube and to Spotify and all of those places myself, and like build my own following, and then get to keep all of my, keep my masters and keep my rights, and also decide when I want to release music and not be, beholden to what other people want from me. And also be able to just do everything exactly how I want to do it with my videos. And so I love being independent, but of course the money side is definitely trickier, and I'm not able to make as much, work as I want. And it's definitely a constant hustle, and, getting in rooms with other songwriters, and it's, a lot of it's hustling and grinding, but I do love it. And I'm not opposed to signing with a label, but it would for sure have to be, the right one and the right people. And I just, I hear so many horror stories about artists that sign too early or sign with the wrong kind of label that doesn't have the right vision for them, and that kind of just keeps them hostage, and then they're not able to release things for years. And I would just rather be in a place where I can keep, releasing stuff when I want to. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've ever faced any sort of like what's it like being an independent artist and a queer woman in the music industry? Do you feel like you are excluded from the mainstream in a way that, like if you were a straight artist, you would be more mainstream, or do you feel like I don't know, like have you run into any challenges or adversities as a very openly lesbian musician who isn't shy about it and literally is like, here's all my gay stuff, enjoy? Like, how has the reaction been?
I would say maybe in the beginning, but I think now, if anything, it's like, I would say it's helpful, because it's a niche, and it's like, something that's not as well saturated or represented. So if anything, I don't think that it's hurt me in any way. If anything, I would say a lot of labels now, they're like, oh, we already have our lesbian artist, like
Right.
that's our lesbian artist, we don't need another lesbian artist.
Right.
which is so
That's
funny,
so
because
dumb.
it's like,
Are they like, oh shoot, we already have our straight person, we've reached our heterosexual quota? That's I guess, and maybe that's the reason behind the competitiveness that you were describing earlier, is that when you're a part of a minority or like a marginalized group, it's kind of like only one of you can succeed. We can have a token, but there can't be too many of you. And so then people internalize that, and then when you look at other queer women, instead of being like, these are my sisters in arms and let's make music together, it's more of, I want to be the lesbian that they recruit because there's only room for one.
There's only room
Is
for
that
one.
the vibe? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, it's so frustrating. But I think it's changing more and more and more, especially with, Spotify. I feel like recently, just listening to like Spotify playlists, curated playlists, I'll hear a song that, is clearly a woman singing about another woman, but I've never even heard of this artist, and I look them up, and like being gay isn't even a part of their press, so that's pretty cool that it's becoming more, just normalized, and it's not as much like, oh, this is the lesbian artist and that has to be your main selling point, and
Right.
which I don't totally mind, because it helps sometimes, having that title helps queer people to find you,
Right. But it's also really cool when, like I hate in movies where it's centered around like coming out scenes, and it's really nice to have new shows like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, where everyone is just super gay and no one cares or comes out. It's just the norm. And so things like that, it's really nice to see. Hopefully we live in a world where no one has to come out, because it's not assumed that you are straight, so you can just exist and people will not be mad at you for deviating from the supposed norm.
Exactly. Yeah.
My last question for you is, what are your favorite queer media recommendations? This is a podcast about representation and seeing ourselves in the media. So what are some of your favorite shows or movies or songs or TV episodes that are queer and you would recommend that other people also experience?
Yeah. Okay, The Handmaiden. That's always my number one. Have you seen it before? The Handmaiden?
I've heard of it.
Jamie, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
Okay, I'll watch it. I was just scared, like, I don't know. I was just nervous that it was like another male gazy, like, tragic lesbian story, so I was afraid to watch it. But I will watch it.
It's okay. It's a little male gazy with the sex scenes, which, you know, classic. Like, what I find that with male, when men direct sex scenes, it's always wide shots. It's so scientific almost, and like one woman, which I've made such a point, and you know, in the sex scenes that I do in music videos, it's like little moments and like skin and kind of like the feeling rather than like look at these two bodies like slamming into each other.
Like an anatomy lesson is pretty much what they give. Yeah. So like there is a little bit of that, but it's not tragic, which is why I like it, and it's twisted and it is triumphant, and the cinematography is beautiful, and it's one of my favorite, and I think super underrated queer movies. So The Handmaiden. Nice, The Handmaiden. Anything else?
Yeah. What else? Mulholland Drive is also one of my favorites. The Wilds, which, have you watched that yet?
No.
Ooh, okay.
I have some gay media catching up to do.
Oh yeah, The Wilds it's on Amazon Prime. A plane full of teenage girls that are, you know, supposed to be going to this retreat. It goes down into the middle of the ocean, and they all end up on a deserted island. And it's a big social experiment. But yeah, and there's a really beautiful gay storyline in that show. So you should watch that. It's really good.
Any other like queer musicians that you feel like you've seen rise up but a lot of people don't know about that you like to listen to and you want to let our listeners know about?
Ooh, Arlo Parks I love right now. She is fantastic. I feel like she's really blowing up and she's about to have a huge moment, I think. Yeah. I have a playlist on Spotify called Damn It Feels Good to Be Gay, and I always keep it updated with really incredible new queer songs and queer musicians. So if you want to listen to more, check it out there.
Yeah. I also have a queer playlist called Lesbian Bops Because Gay.
Yes, you do.
And you are on there a lot, and it's just an accumulation of like tens of hours of gay songs. Thank you so much again for joining us on the pod, and I really appreciate you telling us all about your music. Where can people go check you out to find you and listen to your songs and watch your videos?
So I'm at Zolita on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all of the things, and Spotify, and yeah.
Amazing. Well, go look her up, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to have been here and talk to you. And I'll see you in New York.
Thank you. Yes. Thanks for listening to this episode of Lavender You. Our show is produced by Goal 17 Media, and our theme song is Loveline by the one and only Zolita. We release new episodes every other Thursday, so make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media too. We are at Lavender You Pod, that's YOU, on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you're a queer person out there who's just feeling alone or sad or anxious or like no one in the world understands what it's like, know that you are not alone. This community was made for you. If you ever need to reach out to talk to a fellow queer person about anything and feel community and that you're not alone, know that Lavender You is a community of people who love and accept you. We're glad you're here, and our DMs on social media are always open if you need to talk. Send us a message anytime. We are here for you. See you next episode, and until then, long live the gays!
Am I in your lifeline?